South Korean president is headed to Japan for a rare summit, the first bilateral meeting between Seoul and Tokyo in over 12 years. But just hours before the meeting, North Korea fired yet another ballistic missile into the sea. Now, this is the fifth missile Pyongyang has launched in the last 4 days. After years of frosty ties, South Korean President Yoon landed in Tokyo to meet with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The summit is part of efforts to move past years of strained relations and open a new chapter in relations amid security challenges from Pyongyang and Beijing. President Yoon, before leaving for Tokyo on a 2-day visit, said that better cooperation between Seoul and Tokyo is essential for regional and global security at the moment now. Yoon further added there is an increasing need for South Korea and Japan to cooperate in this time of escalating North Korean nuclear and missile threats. The two neighboring countries are paving the road to fix diplomatic ties, which have been strained by Japanese atrocities during its 35-year colonial rule, including the use of wartime sex slaves and forced labor. The relations nosedived in 2018 after a South Korean court ordered Japanese firms to compensate victims of forced labor and their families. Japan rejected the ruling, and the two nations imposed tit-for-tat trade measures and halted cooperation on many fronts. But since his election last year, President Yoon has made resetting ties with Japan his top priority, and he called Thursday's 2-day trip an important step forward. The South Korean leader said that he hoped that the people of the two countries will move forward together toward the future rather than confront over the past. But hours before the historic summit is to begin, North Korea fired another intercontinental ballistic missile. Japan's defense ministry also confirmed the launch and said that the missile would fall outside its economic zone. The launch this morning is Pyongyang's third show of force in this week itself.
詳細については現在分析中でありますが、発射された弾道ミサイルは約70分飛翔し、8時19分ごろ、北海道の渡島大島の西方約200キロメートルの日本海、我が国の排他的経済水域外に落下したものと推定されます。飛翔距離は約1000キロメートル、また最高高度は約6000キロメートルを超えると推定されます。
Thursday's launch is yet another reminder as to why Seoul and Tokyo are ramping up defense spending and joint military exercises. Earlier this month, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered his military to intensify drills to prepare for a real war. For more on this, we are joined by our correspondent Chris Gilbert from Tokyo. Chris, do you think Pyongyang's missile fire shortly before the two sides met is a clear message from North Korea? And I mean, we have to agree that North Korea has been doing it in the past as well. But does this send a direct signal to the two sides?
Well, as you said, it's been an almost daily occurrence this week in particular. Today, of course, has extra poignancy, I suppose, with the first meeting between South Korean and Japanese leaders in about 12 years here in Tokyo. So we really have to ask ourselves, what message, if any, North Korea is trying to send. And we have to remember that Operation Freedom Shield is still ongoing, 11 days of intense war drills held jointly by the US and South Korea. And look, we know the score. We know roughly at this point that there is an established pattern that when military drills happen in this area, Pyongyang is fairly reliably and promptly going to respond with its own military displays. And what message does that send? Well, security experts have said that different missiles may send different messages, such as maybe one that has new technology, maybe they can reach new ranges. We saw a new Hwasong missile last year, which could reach all of North America, bring all of the USA within range. And the next question is, well, what effect does this have? Well, they very promptly spur international condemnation. Every missile is in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. And also, as you said, a major effect this is having is bringing these two countries, Japan and South Korea, closer together, resulting in summits like we're seeing here today.
Chris, the two nations, South Korea and Japan, have had historical, political and economic disputes since years now. Apart from tackling North Korea, What other agendas would be taken up by the two sides in the summit?
It's a very good question. I mean, I think we should first remember that under Japan's new national security strategy released in December, that North Korea has been replaced by China as Japan's greatest perceived threat in the region. America's national security strategy says similar. These countries are all really responding to the growing military and security threat of China in the region. And North Korea quite literally has dropped to number 2 in what these countries are really building defense pacts to respond to, despite how serious these missile tests are. The quest for Japan and South Korea here is that they both now have leaders who kind of see eye to eye in how to address that, to fight fire with fire, to immerse themselves in an ever more complicated web of defense pacts with countries like the United States, with the UK, Canada, Australia, India, and so on and so forth. And so their mission is to really bury historical hatchets swiftly, to get these issues out of the way swiftly, despite how popular or unpopular their resolutions may be with their own people, in order to build their own defense pact between South Korea and Japan, possibly, and then further immerse themselves in the US-led security response to the Indo-Pacific region.
Thank you for all those updates, Chris. We'll be in touch for more.